everyone. As part of my cross-country NHL Tour series, I am excited to welcome Canada's legendary broadcast team, Gord Miller and Ray Ferraro. Let's go! First, I want to start off by thank you guys so much for, taking the time to join my podcast. And Ray, I hear your voice almost every day when I'm playing on my PS4. So I feel like I already know you, which is pretty funny.
That's weird. Yeah. It's funny, Zander. My guys, when they play, they mute it so they don't have to hear me. Oh,
Really?
Yeah. Always.
Okay, so I'm in the middle of my cross-country NHL tour to promote children's health, and this interview is a big part of the tour series. So I want to thank you guys so very much for helping me share the message.
You betcha.
Anytime.
So Ray, you just returned from the NHL All-Star Game in Vegas. Did Vegas put on like a great event? Like, how was the event? How was it?
I thought they did a really good job. Like everything else, in the last couple of years, things are different, right? And it's harder getting people around. It's harder getting people to like players and support staff to the events, but they did a really terrific job. And Vegas is a cool place to have it because you saw in the skill thing, they can put the players out in the Bellagio fountain and do some skills. Like they had to ask the players, I'm not even kidding, like, can you guys swim? Because if somebody fell off, they wanted to make sure they could swim. Because that fountain is 30 feet deep. So all those pucks that they missed, they had to go get them. I mean, not the players. Eventually somebody had to go get them, and they're 30 feet down. And so I'll tell you what I liked about it the best, and I think it's something that the NHL should look into going forward. Like next year it's in Florida, and I think the coolest part of the skills weekend was Trevor Zegras in that magical act that he played with the stick, like with the puck on his stick. I thought it was awesome. So why do the skills events only include the All-Stars? I think they should include the best, most talented players. Bring them in, even if it's just for the skills. Bring them in, let them compete, let them show off. The fans would love it. Like right now they've got player tracking, so they can tell how fast people go and stuff and how hard they shoot. So what about next year in the fastest skater? If they did the first 35 games, they took the 6 fastest recorded times and brought those 6 guys in for the fastest skater, whoever they are. They might not be, the best players, but they might be the fastest guys. Right. I think that would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see the hardest shot, like to Ray's point. I'd like to see Zdeno Chara in the hardest shot.
He doesn't need to be in the game, Gord? He doesn't need to be in the game. He's been in 20 of them.
He's been kind of funny if he was.
Okay, so this question is for both of you guys, and I'm going to start off with Gord. So I thought the skills competition was very well done. What skill competition would you like to see that no All-Star game has ever attempted?
Wow, that's a tough one. I think some combination of what they did with the blackjack, where the guys were shooting at various cards, like instead of the 4 targets, I'd like to see some sort of thing like from various distances where you could shoot at different targets where they flipped open or whatever. I think that'd be pretty cool, like almost like an arcade game, where a target flipped up, like you had to hit it from the blue line or things like that. I was amazed. I was at a tennis tournament in Toronto one time, and they set out different little cards out in the service area, and they had pros shooting at these sort of
like serving
to them, and they were just killing it. Like they were just like they were hitting every one, and it was pretty neat because I think, Ray, you would agree, like the one thing about players that's amazing is how not just how hard they shoot, but how accurate they are. So I'd love to see that.
You know what, Gord, what about if you had a clock on it too? So I think the one thing that gets missed in the All-Star weekend is it's pretty hard to have any urgency. I mean, the guys are out there fooling around and they're having fun. But if they had to shoot those targets in time, I think that would be really cool. The other, from what I'd like to see, Gord, you would remember this, back to the old Hockey Night in Canada used to do the Superstars competition. Yeah, and they'd have in between periods, they'd have that slalom course and you had speed and passing and shooting. I think that would be, it's all one run, like you could have 6 guys or 8 guys. And I think it would be really cool.
And after what Ray said, I think swimming and hockey equipment would be interesting too.
Yeah.
Well, why not? It is the Winter Olympics. I know it was a way to survive at one time, but there is skiing and shooting at a target. It's the same event.
Yeah. So I think swimming in hockey gear would be very difficult, actually.
It'd be terrible.
So there's one skill that can win or lose a game. It is offensive and defensive skill, and is considered a specialty. Can you guess the skill?
Speed. Skating.
I was going to say skating. Yeah.
Well, I think it would be face-offs. I think it would be cool to have a face-off competition in the All-Star.
Well, the problem is if you went in there and Patrice Bergeron was there, you'd lose every time. like seriously, I don't know, how old is he? Is he like 37, Gord?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wins like 6 out of 10 face-offs against the best players all year, every year. Like that's
crazy.
A lot. It's crazy. Yeah.
It is an important skill. It's funny because Ray, you took face-offs for a long time, but it's funny that some guys just, and the other thing, Zander, is it's for older players. Like when you've been around, Ray can speak to this. When you've been around a while, you have a huge advantage.
You go to take a face-off against a guy that's 10 years older than you, and he's so much stronger. Like, honestly, lots of times you don't even have a chance. You think you're going to win it, and he just swipes it right back, and you're like, well, what just happened there?
Tell him your Gretzky story, Wayne, or Ray.
Oh, so now, before they didn't used to have lines on the ice for the face-off. So they have that T by the dot. So you have to have a foot on either side. It's to make it fair.
Yeah.
When I started, they didn't have that there. So the older guys, they just cheated all the time. And so they would turn sideways and the linesman would tell them nothing and tell the younger guys to make sure they were straight. And so I'd never talked to Wayne before. I'd never met him before. And he's taking a face-off and he's cheating so bad. So I said to the linesman, why don't you just throw the puck in the corner and we could just start from there, just give it to Wayne. And Wayne said, why don't you shut up and put your stick down? And then I just shut up and put my stick down because I was Wayne Gretzky and I thought I'm 20 years old and I really shouldn't say anything to him. So I just stopped.
Really?
Yes. It's the first time I talked to him. He's very nice. He's awesome. Terrific guy. There, he just didn't want to listen to me. I'm pretty sure.
Guess he was very, very focused on the game.
Yeah, you bet.
Yes. Yeah.
So I interviewed Gary Galley a few weeks ago, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
He too played over 1,000 games in the NHL, which is an incredible accomplishment. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
He spoke about how it helped him transition into an analyst role. How did that help? How much did that help your transition?
I don't know if Gary ever thought that that's what he was going to do or it just kind of happened. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. And then about like when I retired, you start getting older and you start thinking about it. And I got traded from the Rangers to Los Angeles and in March of 1996. And the Kings were out of the playoffs and my agent got a call from ESPN and they said, hey, would Ray like to try television? And I'd never really thought about it because I was still playing and I was going to play another 5 or 6 years as it turned out. And so I went there and I found that I really liked it, but I never really had thought about it. So Here's the thing. Both Gary and I have one thing in common is if you're in a conversation with us, you have to put up your hand to have your turn to talk because I think Gary is one of the few people on the planet that talks more than me. And so when we played together in Los Angeles, we gave a lot of people headaches.
Yeah.
So if you can talk, you've got to start. If you love the game, that's the next thing. But Zander, the one thing I don't think people realize, and Gord's the very best at this on the play-by-play side, is you have to work. Like you have to be willing to prepare. You have to look. We're not digging a ditch or doing brain surgery. Like super hard work or super smart work. What you're doing is you have to watch games. You have to learn players. You have to learn tendencies, and you have to be able to recall it all the time. So I would say that's the one thing that maybe gets lost in this a little bit that I was most surprised at when I started.
And how special is it to stay so close to the game after such a long playing career?
I dreamed of nothing else when I was a little boy of playing in the NHL. I started skating and fiddling around when I was like 5 or 6, and then I retired. And then the next year I went into broadcasting. So I'm 57. I've been around hockey for 52 years. Like, it's amazing. It's really, yeah, I can't imagine doing anything else.
So, Gord, we're going to go over to you now. So, I'm sure both of you have learned a lot from each other over the years. What is it like calling a game with someone who has so much game experience, who anticipates the game so well and provides such an expertality? Sorry, I can't pronounce the word.
Expertise.
Expertise. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't know anyone like that.
Isn't he mean? Like, he does this to me, Zander, all the time. Like, he makes fun of how I can't travel, or maybe I get lost once in a while and things like that. But see what he's like? See, you don't have a partner. Good for you. Keep that, Zander. Don't let a Gord into your life.
Exactly. That was his first mistake. That was his biggest mistake. No, you know what? It's obviously Ray is, I think, the best at what he does. I think, well, a couple of things. He obviously is quite eloquent. He speaks well. He communicates well. Has knowledge. I think the best thing that Ray brings to the broadcast is, well, two things. Number one, you can criticize people all you want. There's a mistake on every goal. So if you want to focus on that, you can. But there's a lot of times when someone makes a really good play, and you have to know when to talk about the mistake and when to talk about the skill. And I think Ray balances that really well. And the second thing is, Ray has fun and can laugh at himself. And I don't think you'd want to sit around and have dinner with someone that was, never laughed at himself or took himself very seriously. And Ray doesn't. And I think what makes this work with him and I is, well, it's a good business, it's a good professional partnership, but we're also really good friends. And, I think that's we drove from Brno in the Czech Republic up to Munich to watch Ray's son play in the German league, and then drove back. And then we got back to the hotel. We'd been in the car for 7-8 hours.
Oh yeah.
We get back, and we got back. Ray said, "Want to have dinner?" And then, well, we got back from one time we were in Europe for a month for the World Championship. And we got back, and the day I got back, Ray and I were talking on the phone, and I heard Cammie in the background, and she said to Ray, "What could you two possibly have to talk about?"
Like, what else is there? You've just been together for 3 weeks. I don't know. We found something, right? It really makes. I'll tell you, if I can butt in, Zander.
Yeah.
To me, I think is the key. I never think or worry or wonder what Gord's going to bring to the broadcast, because I know the play-by-play side is so locked away. It's prepared. It's professional. It's informed. I just have to worry about me. And I like to think Gord can do the same thing, that he doesn't have to worry if I'm prepared or, has Ray watched the games? He knows I have. So we can talk about things that we've never, like, we don't decide before the game, hey, let's tell a story about this. All of a sudden something pops up. We get into some little sidebar story, and I think it adds fun to the broadcast.
And this is a little follow-up question. How much do you think your guys' bond has improved over all those years?
Miles.
Yeah.
Miles. I mean, we didn't really know each other when we started. And when I came to TSN, I was with one crew and Gord was with another crew, so I think the first couple of years, Gord, we didn't work together very much, right?
No, we do like half a dozen games together a year, yeah.
And then all of a sudden we were working more and more games together, and it goes one of two ways. You either don't agree and don't get along, and then that means the two people just go to the rink, they do the game, they turn around and they go home. And that would be really hard.
Right.
And so without it, we just kind of fit together, and I enjoy Gord's company. We have lots of laughs on the road. We have, we talk, I'd say we talk on the phone 4 or 5 times a week, aside from our games. And so we've become friends and confidants, and like, man, I think we have a great time when we're together. And I think it, by far, Zander, it helps everything that we do.
Yeah. For sure.
So, Ray, this question is for you. The game has changed like dramatically over the years. Do you think your skill set would have been more suited for today's game?
I would have liked to have played in today's game for sure. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons is at my size. So I'm about 5'9". Gord likes to say I'm a little shorter, but I like to say I'm about 5'9".
Whatever you're comfortable with, Ray. Whatever you're comfortable with.
And so I had to work so hard to weigh 190 pounds because you had to be heavy and strong, and you had to fight, and not physically fight, but like fight for space.
Like strong.
Yeah, battle these defensemen who were just, there were no penalties called then either. And so you had to fight for every inch of the ice. And now it's much more skilled. I could have been a lighter player, which would have been much more comfortable. I wouldn't have had to eat so much. But I think given today's training and stuff, my skill set was more suited to today's game. But it's not the way it was. I mean, like, I played in that era, and if you were going to play then, you had to be tough. Like you had to be willing to take a punch in the nose to score a goal. And if you look at this nose, you can see I took a few of those. This actually, Zander, you don't know this. A doctor fixed this. This is
I've always
this
asked
is repaired.
What kind of doctor was he? A podiatrist?
Well, I don't know. He was in an office. I went in there, and
Okay, so this question is for both you guys, and so we're going to start off with Gord.
Okay.
The NHL is always trying to improve the game. For example, Gary Galley felt that removing the red line really opened up the game. In your mind, what has been the most positive changes in the game, and what still needs to change?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is the consistency in officiating. I think that what we're seeing now is that, it's not perfect. It never will be, but penalties are being called more consistently. So we don't see the hooking and holding and grabbing that we used to see. They used to, when Ray was, Ray talked about it, when he was playing, it was rodeo all the time. Just, people grabbed each other, hooked each other, whatever. And then at the start of the year, they'd announce we're cracking down on them, and they would for 20 games, and then they'd slip back. I think we're getting to a point now where, for the most part, I think the rules are being called pretty consistently throughout a game, and it makes a better game. It's a way better game when the players don't have someone riding on their back. Right. The only thing I'd like to see it, I'd like to see that continue. The second part of the question, I'd like to see that continue so that a penalty in the first period, the first minute of the first period, is a penalty in the last minute of the third. I'd like to see that kind of consistency, and that would be my biggest thing. And
Ray, what about you?
Well, I like just about everything about the way the game is trending. Gord's 100% right about the officiating changing the way the game can be played. And because the game is being played like this, we're going to see a player like Connor Bedard in the NHL. Because when I played, somebody would have just wrapped him up, and he would have never been big enough, and he wouldn't have been strong enough, and all that skill would have never been seen. And that's a shame. One thing I think they can do to, I think it would really help, the trapezoid behind the net? They got it backwards, in my opinion. So I think the goalie should not be able to go behind the net and stop the puck. So I would make the trapezoid smaller, and in that area, the goalie can't touch the puck. And the reason I say that is you would be able to pass the puck around the boards from side to side. You could dump it in. The goalie can't go get it. Now, if he wants to go to the corner and get it, most goalies are not very good. Even though they think they are, they're not very good handling the puck. And they put that rule in for one goalie, and that was Marty Brodeur. Because you dump it in, there were no rules, so the defenseman would hold you up. Like, how were you going to get by Scott Stevens or Ken Danico? You just couldn't. And then Marty would go get the puck wherever it was and pass it out of the zone. So they put that rule in to rein in Marty. And I think it's backwards. And I think it would help promote a little bit of offense. It doesn't have to be a big change. Sometimes you see pretty good results from a small change.
So here's a question for both of you guys again, and we're going to start off with Gord. The international field has become very balanced in both women's and men's hockey. What does Canada have to do to remain a hockey power in international competition?
Well, I think, there was always a bit of a myth that Canada produced, a lot more, had better players than other countries.
Right.
We have more players. I think if you take the top 20 players from Canada, the United States, Sweden, Russia, Finland, you'll wind up, those teams are pretty close. The difference is Canada could put a second team together that would also be quite competitive, and maybe even a third. I think one area of concern might be for Canada would be goaltending. And I think that if you look at the contenders to be goalies for Canada, if NHL players had gone to the Olympics, the goalies would have been probably, Marc-Andre Fleury at, 36 or 36.
Maybe Binnington?
You're looking at guys over 30 for the most part. So you wonder about, it doesn't seem like Canada's producing as many star young goalies. And I think that would be one area that they would have to keep working on, because a lot of these other countries, and Ray knows this, Finland, Sweden, they have national goalie coaches that work with their goaltenders year round.
For me, I would say that one area I won't say be concerned with, because it's not like Canada doesn't have much skill.
Yeah.
Right.
But I'd worry a little bit about promoting the skill development over game. Like, kids do not need to be learning a system. They do not need to learn about how to forecheck at 8 years old. What they need to learn is how to skate, how to handle the puck, how to create. You can learn that other stuff whenever.
Right. Yeah.
I look at, the US does, spends a lot of money, but they put together their top 40 players every year in the national development program. Look at the players that come out of there. Now, you can say some of them aren't very refined in some cases, but man, do they have skill. And so if I'm Canada, I'm looking for a little bit better balance to that. Like it's great. You have guys that know how to play and they play lots of games, in junior in particular. Man, I want the skill to not be secondary. I think it should be at the top. I see it in other sports too. Skill before anything else. You can teach a 15-year-old kid can learn a system in a week. They'll like that. You can't improve skill like that. That is repetition over and over and over.
So this question is for both of you guys again, and we're going to start off with Gord again. The 2021 NHL draft had 4 NCAA players chosen in the top 5. Do you see this as a new trend in a player's path to the NHL?
I think I really think it's cyclical. I think it comes and goes in waves. I think we're going to see, for the most part, this year's upcoming draft, we're going to see 3 Slovaks probably go in the top 10. So I think there's been times when there's been lots of college players. We've seen lots of junior players. I don't think there's one path. I think there's different paths for different people. And I think that young players need to pick the path that they think suits them the best. And so So I think I don't think it's sort of a trend. I do think it just it's a pendulum that swings back and forth.
And
for sure it is. There is no right way. There is a right way for every player. And so, do you think Owen Power could have been a star in junior? Of course he could have. The guy's awesome. But he went to college because he felt that was the best developmental path for him. So I don't see it as one way or the other. I do think, though, there are some players that are ill-suited to college, and there's some that are ill-suited to junior. Some players need more time, and the college way is the better way for them. It might be physically, it might be developmentally. I'll give you maybe an under the radar example, but if Joe Pavelski had gone to play major junior or the USHL, who knows where he would have ended up. But he went to Wisconsin and he played college hockey, and he was kind of a clunky skater and he wasn't super fast. He got drafted in the 7th round, and there wasn't many players picked after him, but he had time to develop, and he's gone on to an amazing career. And that would be just one example of a current player that I think of who took advantage of more time.
Yeah.
So Ray, this question is for you. So you were the first to call a game with a child in the lineup. How difficult was it to keep your focus and not be too critical of your son's play in public? Or was it just like a regular game calling?
It's not even close to a regular game. Not even close. I mean, the whole point of being an analyst is you're taking in all this information and you're trying to, in my opinion, I'm not working on a Homer broadcast, so I'm trying to relay the information about players and what play is made and all this stuff. And you're trying to do it in a level way.
Right.
I could tell you I was watching all 10 players on the ice equally, but then I would be lying to you. I was watching Landon and these other 9 guys were skating around out there, but I really wasn't paying attention. I was watching Landon the whole time. And every time the puck would come near him, I'd be like, oh, I hope he makes the right play. Oh, I hope he makes the right play. So it's hard. And I tried most times to just evaluate what I was seeing. But let's be honest. I mean, if short of him shooting it in his own net, I don't think I was going to be super critical of him. I will tell you, interviewing him was one of the highlights, not just of my career, but of my life. Like, it was just amazing.
That was so cool. And my favorite moment, one of those games, was we were doing a Boston game that Landon was playing, and Kevin Miller passed to Landon, who had a great chance. And I said, Miller to Ferraro, and it gets a shot away. And I did make the point that it would never be the other way. It would never be Ferraro to Miller. That would never happen.
Both Ferraros would look over at the Miller guy and say, nope, not the right option right there.
Okay, so now we have some rapid fire questions. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's going to be for both you guys, and we'll start off with Gord, and then Ray, you can answer right after.
Sure.
Okay.
So you go out for a nice Italian dinner. Are you at the point where you can now order each other's food? Sorry.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah?
I know exactly what he'll have. Yeah.
Pretty close. Gord is not the most adventurous eater, I will say. So we're looking at a little salad. We're looking at some chicken. We're looking at some vegetables, which under no circumstance will include cauliflower. Gord finds that the most repulsive food on the planet.
Yes.
A very straightforward, unimaginative dinner from.
Oh, you know what? That's so okay. So here, a salad, no olives. He's the only Italian.
Terrible.
Only Italian person that, like, there's a zillion olive groves in Italy. He hates olives. Yes. And a pasta with no cream sauce.
Oh, can't do that.
And probably not much seafood.
Yeah, we're not. And the biggest battle though, but here's the biggest problem is Gord's got this thing, like, he can push away from the table quicker than anyone. So the problem is when he pushes away, the check's still there. So somebody's got to pick up the check.
Just to be clear, he never has any money. He never has any money.
If I do have money, I make sure it's a bill that can't be broken in a taxi. So I'm like, oh, gee, I can't use this.
Gord, I've only got $100 bill with me.
I've had it for 4 years.
So here's the next one. So your ride is ready. Like, your guys' ride is ready to waiting for you to take you guys to the game. Which one is waiting for the other?
Gord's probably first, but he has made it very clear if it's a 4:30 departure, it's 4:30. It's not 4:32. I like to think I'm on time. I never, or not, I mean, I'm sure there's been a few times, but I'll say I never beat Gord to the lobby. Never.
Yeah, really?
Never. Gord was late once, I'm sure, somewhere, but I don't remember.
Who will be the next player to join the Triple Gold Cup?
Ooh. I would think, Andrei Vasilevsky's got a chance. Vasilevsky's an Olympic gold medal away. So I would think that Vasilevsky's got a pretty good chance at it. I mean, yeah. Eric Stahl already has it. He's in the Olympics. There's a couple of Swedes could do it this year. Although I don't think the Swedes have a very good team at the Olympics, do they? I don't think they'll.
No, but you know what? I think it's like 2018. I mean, like, how do you really know?
Yeah.
But they've got a couple guys there just short of an Olympic gold.
Yeah. two Swedish players, Marcus Kruger and Joachim Nordstrom.
Oh, so Kruger was Chicago, right?
And Nordstrom too. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Tough to get, man. Oh, how great is that?
Yeah. Okay, so you guys are going through some pre-game prep and stuck on like how to pronounce a player's name. Who goes to who for advice?
I always go to Gord's the name police. And no, but you are. Oh, absolutely.
No, I'm not the police. I prefer to think I'm like a teacher, not a cop.
Yeah, well, okay, he starts as a teacher and then he's a cop. And but here's the thing, Gord has his great line. I will tell you this, and I love it because we go to the World Championships and we're doing unfamiliar teams with very unfamiliar names. And people will say quite frequently, gee, you guys do a great job, the way you say those names and get the names right. And Gord says, how do you know they're right? We just
you don't know those players. As long as we say them the same way, you don't know that.
That's the one thing when we're unsure, we go, okay, how are we saying this guy's name? Now I will say this. So next to Gord, the broadcaster I worked the most with was Chris Cuthbert. So when we work side by side, every once in a while you get stuck and you can't see who tipped it or whatever. And so like Gord will point over and, point to my notes and, or if it's a deflection, I might go, oh, it's this guy. And so, cause he's looking at the big picture. I'm looking at something very minute. I tried to do that with Cuthbert. It's like tapping a 4-year-old's notes. You couldn't read it. I didn't even know what he had written. I couldn't even tell one team from the other. So I just kind of give him you're on your own. Gord's notes, very neat, well typed out, very clear. And they're even better when he types them out for me too.
I was going to say, you can complain all you want about or point out how tight they are, but the night before games, you're like, where are they? Where are they? So,
I need them. I know, and Gord prints. Gord travels. This is how organized he is, Zander. He's got his own printer that goes on the road.
Really?
So he's not fooling around waiting for the lobby.
Little wee printer, yeah. The little wee printer with me.
Yeah,
and
so
Ray's pointed out we've never had a fight, but if we ever do, I will withhold rosters. That'll be my retaliation.
Is there a name that either you still have like trouble pronouncing?
Okay, I have one, and I think I just told Gord this the other day. There's no reason to have problems after this much time in the league with Jonathan Huberdeau. I've said it 15 different ways. It's Huberdeau. That's it.
It's actually not.
That's what the NHL guide says.
It's wrong.
See what I mean? He's the police. Tell me how to say it.
It's Huberdeau.
Yeah, but I can't do that with the French names. I'll screw them all up. So it's Huberdeau. How's that?
In French, like Henri Richard, the H is silent.
Yes.
So
I wouldn't say Henry Richard. It would be Henri Richard.
Yeah. So you say Huberdeau.
Okay, when Jonathan wins 11 Stanley Cups, then I'll finally get it right. I apologize to Jonathan right now. I cannot get his name right. The next game I do, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to say, teach me how to say your name. Because I want to know. Yes. Now, Gord's name is a guy from Hungary. Gord, what's that guy's name again?
Oh, I think so. There was a guy. So Zander, his name was Bence, Bence. That was his first name. And his last name was Stip Schitz. Stipshits. So he thought that was the funniest thing he'd ever heard.
Listening to Gord say, "Here goes Stipshits" into the corner. I'm really?
I said, we went to the Hungarians. Is it steep sheets? No, it's Stipshits. Stip sheets? No, Stipshits. And they were they were remember Ray? They were.
We must ask honestly, half a dozen people. Same answer. No, Stipshits.
Yeah. So but the problem is he's 10 years old and giggles all the time. So I had to keep going like this because he was elbowing me.
And the guy was pretty good. He kept playing a lot and he got the puck.
He was their best player. He had the puck all the time. Well, relatively for them.
Yeah.
And what was your guys' most memorable game that you called together?
Ooh.
Okay, I'm going to offer this one, Gord. The Canada-Russia gold medal game in Toronto.
Yeah. That was the 2015 gold medal game. Yeah.
I think there were about 7 million people that watched.
Yeah.
And it was a wild ride.
Oh, because Canada got the early lead.
They're way out in front. Yeah.
And then the Russians came back, and there was that one. I would say the 2020 World Junior in Ostrava, the game where Canada, hit
the camera.
The puck hit the camera. Barrett Hayton, you saw him in the morning. He had his arms strapped to his chest, like it didn't look like he could play, and then he scored the key goal in the third period. I got
one more.
Game 7, San Jose, Vegas. In the 2018 playoffs, I guess it was.
Yes. Yeah.
We went into Game 7 of that series. That was the one, Zander, where there was the call against Cody Eakin, a 5-minute major, and San Jose.
It was 3-0 at the time.
Yeah, and San Jose scored 4 times to go up 4-3, and then Vegas
on the power play.
That power play, and then Vegas tied up with a minute to go, and then Barclay Goodrow scored the overtime winner in San Jose. It was nuts. I mean, honestly, we've had like
the cool thing about that game, as I remember it, was that, well, 2 things. One was I was between the benches, and like my feet were shaking. Like it was so loud. Like the building was shaking. The second thing is Goodrow scored. That was the second overtime, I believe. Or was it late in the first?
I think it was late in the first overtime.
He hadn't had a shift in about 25 minutes of game time. He'd just been sitting there. And I guess everybody was tired. They put him out and he scored. I guess if the coach thought he was going to score, he might have used him a little earlier.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the end of our interview. I want to thank you guys so much for joining, and this is going to help me a lot on my, tour and raising awareness. So yeah, I want to thank you guys so very much.
Well, awesome, Zander, thank you, and Zander, good luck with your tour, and it's great work you're doing. We were happy to be on with you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, buddy.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.